Good morning and welcome back, ladies, gents and Pikachus, to another analysis and breakdown of the Quran of the Muslims. Yes, we're back once again to break this thing down verse by verse into factual, logical statements in English so that you and I can understand who or what is Allah, what does he mean by the contents of his book here, and more importantly for us, how does this affect us as non-believers in our lives today. So before I start, as I always do, I'm going to tell you now, if you have any doubts as to my factual accuracy or the things I'm about to say, please first buy, translate and read one of these, an Arabic-only Quran, which is the true, divinely inspired, perfectly preserved word of Allah Akbar, and not an English copy, which will be a false doctrine, or Quran.com and the Google translation, which is also false. In fact, Allah calls those books the words of Satan and calls you an infidel if you follow them. So check me by this one, and once you've done so, you'll recognise every single word I'm about to say now is 100% true of the words of Allah and what Islam is today. So with that in mind, let's carry on. If you've been watching the series and you saw the last few, you'll remember we are going through Al-Nisa, which is the book of women and children. More notably, we're going through the indoctrination patterns and the techniques used upon the children by the mother at the command of the father in order to turn a little lamb, innocent baby child into a raging genocidal maniac of a jihadi, and then send them to the foreign countries to kill the non-believers and recollect the world east and west, Allah's great bounty, back for the Muslims. So with that in mind, let's carry on where we left off. Verse 98 of Al-Nisa. Except the weak ones, none were guided to safety. Allah did not allow them to find safe passage, not a man, child, nor a woman. End of verse. So we get off to a mystifying start there. So if we break it down, what is Allah trying to tell us here? Well, if you watch the last one, you'll understand more about this. So if we break it down, except for the weak ones means disabled people and dishonourable infidel-like Muslims who are too fearful and cowardly to go and kill the infidels and fight the jihad. So they were not guided to safety. And what that means is, after they qualified from being a child into a full jihadi and they got sent to a foreign country to kill the non-believers, if they didn't want to go, or if they went and they were too afraid to actually fight the non-believers, they are the weak ones. And they will not be guided to safety. Allah did not allow them to find a safe passage, not a man, child, nor a woman. So this is explicitly putting fear into the hearts of the children, just so they know Allah's watching you. I will know if you don't do the jihad, and the jihad is the main goal of this, the Quran of the Muslims. So that's what that means. Then we move on to 99. But when slain, perhaps then Allah might forgive them, for Allah is the most pardoning and the most forgiving. End of verse. So what does this mean? Well, if we break it down, you're not going to be guided to safety. Allah will not allow you safe passage because you are too cowardly to go and do the jihad. So we know that he's trying to manipulate the emotions of the child to be rage-filled and courageous in their fight against the unsuspecting rest of the world when they go on this jihad. And then he adds a piece to that. But when slain, when they're dead, if they are killed in the service of Allah's cause of jihad, the end times genocidal prophecy, if they die, perhaps then Allah might forgive them for their terrible sin of wanting to stay at home, be peaceful, and play video games and listen to music. Or maybe, I don't know, have a career and a family. But they'll be forgiven for that if they die in the jihad. For Allah is most pardoning and most forgiving. Which he absolutely is not. And we know this from our previous readings. Allah's pardoning is like a duty that he grants to his jihadis for the sins that they commit along the way. So say they do some horrible, sinful, sexual forced act against a woman. That's fine, we'll forgive that as long as you've killed some Jews and Christians. And Allah will forgive you your sins, provided that you killed some of his enemies, which are the Jews and the Christians. That's what this means. 100. Oh, this just gets so much better. Ye who emigrate for the sake of Allah's cause of jihad will find many abundantly wealthy places of refuge. But he who leaves his home to find their way to the jihad and finds only death, indeed has an increased wage, will be rewarded by Allah, because Allah is merciful and also forgiving. So, a bit of a longer verse there, but if we break it down, Ye who emigrates for the sake of Allah's cause of jihad is directly saying to the children, right, as soon as you're able, as soon as you're big enough to carry a sword and get your own passport, off you go to the infidel countries, i.e. everyone else who's not already Islamic. And the reason you'll be going there is to find the many abundantly wealthy places of refuge, i.e. the countries who have wealth and safety, not Islamic countries. So you'll be happy when you get there, oh children. But you're not going there to be happy. Remember, you're going there to kill the infidels and to install Islamic governments, so Allah can be praised alone and all other faiths and cultures can snuff it. Off with your head, you're dead. Then he finishes off the verse by saying, if they die while they're finding their way to jihad, indeed an increased wage will be theirs, rewarded by Allah, for he is merciful and forgiving. So we know the children are probably thinking, hang on a minute, I don't know anything. I've never had a fight in my life. Now you're sending me abroad to a new country where I don't know anyone, I don't even speak the language, but you want me to integrate into their community as a stealth ninja, an assassin, and then start killing infidels. But all the while I've got to be worshipping and sending money back. What if I die? What if I don't even make it there? What if I get killed on the way? Allah's merciful, because if you get killed on the way, an increased wage will be rewarded to you, O child. You have to die to get it, but we're not going to tell you that bit. We're not going to tell you that you'll die. We're just going to tell you about the reward and the jihad and how much you'll be loved if you do it and how much you will be hated and despised if you do not. For you are a coward if you don't want to do it. That's what this means. 101. When you are in other lands, it is no sin against you to pray less often where the infidels are found, because they have schemes to seduce you. For infidels are surely a sworn enemy of yours. End of verse. Oh, this is so much more interesting than I thought it was going to be. So, if we break this down, when you are in other lands, O children, because remember this is the mother teaching the children how to live and how to have lives. When you are in these other lands, observing Islam, secretly doing the jihad and trying to kill the infidels, it is no sin against you to pray less often than you would at home. And the reason it's going to be okay is because wherever you find infidels, they're going to have schemes to seduce you. They're going to try and take you away from Allah and convince you you can just be happy. You can go to college, have a family, a life, a job. You can have your own stuff, your house. You can listen to music even though it's not halal. No, don't listen to those dirty, scabby infidels. They're just trying to seduce you away from Allah. Allah won't love you if you don't do the jihad. And I'm watching you, I know all things, says Allah in his book. So that's what he's saying here. He's definitely trying to brainwash the children through fear and emotional triggers and economic triggers by saying, if you go and do the jihad, I'll bring you abundance, wealth and safety. But if you don't, I will bring you poverty and you'll probably die, then you'll get nothing. If you successfully do the jihad, you'll own the whole country along with all the other Muslims. But if you die along the way, a great wage will be yours. And don't forget, you will also be the recipient of 22 buxom virtuous virgins in my created paradise, says Allah in the Quran of the Muslims. But it must be noted, even though he doesn't really like to remind people often, his paradise where these 72 virgins will be created doesn't actually exist yet. And for it to exist, all the infidels need to be killed. So all the Jews, Christians, apologists, atheists, apostates, Buddhists, Hindus, agnostics, and everybody who's not a devout Muslim. So what that means, ladies, gents, and Pikachus, is you're not worshipping enough if you don't do the jihad, and you will get nothing but a beheading. Okay, children, says the mother. It's unbelievable, but if you don't believe me, buy it and read it yourself. And we move on. 102. When amongst a crowd, perform a prayer over them so that they will rise up with you in battle. Like that's going to happen. Let them pray with their weapons close by, to be in readiness and to guard you. Because the infidels who discourage your brandishing only do so because they are scheming to turn against you behind your back. Allah prepares savage torment for all the infidels. End of verse. This is so unbelievable. Imagine if we taught our kids this. Like, while this is getting taught to these Islamic children, our kids are getting bedtime stories, hugs from mum and dad, new bikes. They're playing with their new iPhones, they're on roller skates, listening to music in the street. Then cast an eye back to Mecca. This is what the 7-year-olds are being taught. They're being taught you're not allowed to listen to music or play games because it's not halal. You have to go abroad and do the jihad, kill all the non-believers, and all the problems that you have are the non-believers causing it. And if you don't have any faith in this, or you have questions, or you're disobedient, you're weakening Allah and his angels, and you are causing the downfall of Islam. So you know what's going to happen to you. Off with your head, you're dead, and you don't get your virgins. But if you do it, Allah will love you, because he's so merciful, all-knowing, and wise. That's what this means. So we move on to the final verse of the day, 103. And you shall complete all your prayers and fear only Allah. Remember Allah when sitting, standing, or prone. That means, when you're lying in a puddle with your rifle out, that's prone on the floor. Remember Allah when sitting, standing, or prone, and you will always be secure. Your prayer is prescribed at fixed times so that you can stay faithful to Allah. End of verse. End of reading. So, if we break that last one down quickly, in context of the rest of this page of the instructions for the children to go and mercilessly murder the infidels under cover of secrecy in the jihad in other countries, remember earlier he said, now that you're surrounded by infidels who you have to try and kill, don't worry about praying so much. 2 lines later, we've forgotten about that. You shall complete all your prayers and fear only Allah. Remember Allah when sitting, so when you're at home relaxing, standing when you're out doing the jihad, pretending to be a Westerner, or prone, when you're lying down in wait with your crossbow or your rifle, waiting to shoot someone and their daughters in a Sharia honour killing because they dishonoured your religion. By speaking up for women's rights, for instance, like Carol Hunt and her daughters did before they were mercilessly murdered in a Sharia honour killing the other day. Then he finishes off by saying, if you do this, you will always be secure. So don't have paranoia or fear, O child. Just do what you're told. Don't think. Kill. But if you don't do that, you will have no security. Allah's watching you. He won't give you security and he won't love you. And that means your parents won't be doing well, your village won't let you come back, and you'll get no virgins. So just remember, oh kiddie, they're evil. All your problems are their fault. They're stupid, their laws are unrighteous, and you are a moral good Muslim and an obedient servant of God who is Allah. And he's telling you, go and kill those evil Jews and Christians. Otherwise he won't love you. That's what this means. And then the last thing he says is, surely your prayer is prescribed at fixed intervals so that you can remain faithful. So even though you've done nothing but learn Quran at the expense of your life, you're not allowed to listen to music, play games, you're not allowed to have friends who are not Muslims, you're in another foreign country committing yourself to a jihad which you're probably going to get killed doing or locked up after doing, you still have to do all your prayers. You still have to do this 5 times a day. Even when you're sitting, lying down, you're prone with your crossbow, or whatever you're doing, you have to keep Allah in mind. And if you don't, you won't be secure. So you'll probably get killed. So in summary of this whole page, what we can tell is the children of Muslims are being mercilessly bullied and manipulated through fear and paranoia, which is installed in them by the reading of the Quran of the Muslims and the mother, into killing everybody else who is not a Muslim, so that Allah can recoup his bounty of East and West. Because remember, he said in an earlier verse that he actually owns the whole world and he created it as a bounty for only his Muslims. But he accidentally left it in the pockets of the Christians and Jews and apostates and atheists, pagans, Buddhists and agnostics. So they've stolen it, and they insulted our religion because they refused to bow to Allah. I mean, that's 2 reasons to go and kill them. Plus they're unrighteous and all the problems in the world are theirs. And if you needed more excuse than that, if you don't do it, you won't get your virgins. Okay, little kiddies? So off you go now, kill the unbelievers so that you can have your virgins, so that you can be secure and wealthy and have the abundance, and so your family won't kick you out. That's what this means. If you don't believe me, buy it and read it yourself. And that's the end of this video, so I hope you listened and learnt, because we're going to have to come up against these jihadis at some point in the near future, and when we do that, I don't want to have to end up sending in the military to murder them all back. I would rather come to a peaceful solution, which unfortunately is completely prevented by Allah if you believe in this, but I believe with my Christian heart and soul that we can appeal to the morality of these children, which is what they are. That's why they wear face coverings and run into fights and wars in Palestine, for instance, completely covered head to toe. It's so that you can't tell you're shooting a child. And then Hamas can go, those evil Jews are killing children! And it's like, well, I killed a bloke with a gun wearing a mask. I didn't realise he was 11. You don't expect 11-year-olds to come running at you with machine guns. But that's what's going to happen, so it is our job as moral, educated, good people to see this coming, accept the horrible truth of it, because it is in there, and develop an anti-jihad plan to try and save as many of these innocent children as we can, or we will die, and so will they. So just remember that, it's down to you and me and the rest of us to educate ourselves, plan and do. And God willing, we could save these people and ourselves. That's the end of this video. So I hope you learned something and you enjoyed that. God bless you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. Well, that was fun, wasn't it? So, yeah, that's all for now. If you want more, be back here at 4:15 this afternoon for more Without Lies, Islam Dies. Until then, have a lovely day. God bless you all, and I'll see you, lovely, beautiful people, in the next one. Bye now. Bye, bye, bye.